Thank you very much. So I'm just going to invite my co-moderator now to introduce the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Titi. I hope that we are learning. So we'll go on to the next speaker, Mrs. Afolabi, and I'll be reading her profile. Oyikan Afolabi is a renowned educator, trainer, and speaker with a wealth of experience spanning over 30 years in early years and junior school management and leadership. She studied education at the prestigious University of Lagos and further obtained certification in school management and leadership from the esteemed Harvard Graduate School of Education, Boston. Mrs. Afolabi was the first indigenous head of school at Lekki British Junior School, Lagos, where she worked for 10 years before retiring to set up Oakville Preparatory School, Lekki. Oakville Prep is an inclusive school encouraging neurotypical and neurodivergent children to learn and play together. Mrs. Afolabi believes strongly in inclusion and is trained in the teaching and learning methodology of neurodivergent children. She works with children on the autism spectrum, including dyslexia and ADHD, amongst others. Mrs. Afolabi has a diploma in applied behavior analysis from the United Kingdom. She is also a registered member of SENG, which is supporting the emotional needs of the gifted. She has implemented the British curriculum in both the UK and Nigeria. Mrs. Afolabi is happily married with 3 adult children. Please put your hands together to welcome Mrs. Afolabi to give us an educator's perspective on understanding and managing dyslexia and ADHD. Please put your hands together until she's up on the podium.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, teachers, parents, and everyone in here. I'll stand on existing protocol. I'd like to acknowledge my co-speakers. I think they've done my job already. Between the keynote speaker and Mr. Akikume, they've said everything, almost everything that I have to say, but I'll still go ahead. My focus today will be on dyslexia and ADHD, but with particular interest to the educators. So I'll focus really on more of the educators. Understanding and addressing learning difficulties, challenges, differences in children is very important to educators. It's really important because it's only when we understand that we can support the children. It is only when we are observant and we are aware of what is going on in a child and why a child is behaving the way the child is behaving, that is when we can support the child and adapt our teaching to include the child. So that is very important. I'm going to very quickly mention some specific learning difficulties, which includes dyslexia and ADHD. So we have dyslexia, as the 2 speakers before me have said. It's when people have challenges with reading, writing, and spelling. And sometimes it actually affects how they talk as well. Dysgraphia, that has to do also with writing. Dyspraxia has when they have difficulties with fine and gross motor skills. The teachers in here, you do understand what I mean by fine and gross motor skills when, that helps with writing, with knitting, with threading, and all those things. When children have challenges, we cannot assume that every child can buckle their shoes. We cannot assume that every child can thread. We can't assume that every child can scoop. And there are also challenges with their gross motor skills, which involves jumping up and down, going on the playground equipment, and things like that. ADHD is also one of those special challenges, and dyscalculia, which has to do with challenges with numbers. So I'll go very quickly. Our focus today, like we know, is on dyslexia and ADHD. So what is dyslexia? I'd like to believe that if you've been in this hall for the past 1 hour, you already know. But I will quickly just mention here that it's a neurological disorder that affects a person's ability to read, spell, and write, and sometimes, like I said, to speak. And it's characterized by children having challenges with processing language-related information. When it comes to decoding, you know that in reading and decoding, we work with phonics. As teachers, we work with phonics. And these children actually have challenges with identifying the phonic sounds and blending them. When a child cannot identify the phonic sounds and cannot blend, what invariably happens? It makes reading really difficult. So whilst you're teaching the other children, they know that instead of the letter B, we hardly use letters now. Most teachers in most schools, we use the phonic sound. So it's no longer a case of sight words, just looking at the word and reading it. They need to sound out the letters, the phonics. And if they can't sound it out, then reading becomes a challenge. So the word dyslexia is comprised of the Greek words dys, which means difficulty, and lexis, which means word. Dyslexia simply means difficulty with words. Some of the causes of dyslexia, it is said that it is hereditary, that it's passed on, it's from the genes. That's been said. There's also 3 other theories: the phonological deficit theory, which is what I just explained, poor phonemic awareness, the magnocellular system deficit theory, which has to do with vision. So you find that some children who are dyslexic, they say that they cannot see properly what's on the paper, in the book, that, oh, it's blurry. The letters are jumping at me. I can't see. You know, they just mix up letters. And for some of them, when they do have an eye test done, it comes out okay. But this is what some of them do see. The cerebellar impairment theory, deficits in balance and muscle tone, that extends to reading and spelling as well. Some common symptoms and characteristics of dyslexia. As already mentioned, difficulty with reading accurately. Children who have dyslexia, they have issues and problems with reading accurately. So that's not. I'm going to merge my slides together because some of these things have been mentioned. So you already know that this child, we're aware now of what dyslexia is, and you have a child in your class who is displaying some of these symptoms, is not reading accurately. Now, not reading accurately the first time is not enough for you to say that this child is dyslexic. No. It is over a period of time, and there are different other symptoms that you need to also see in the child. Problems with comprehension. A child who cannot read fluently and at the right pace would usually have problems with comprehension, i.e., there's a long sentence or a passage, and the child is struggling to pronounce the words. So the boy is riding a bicycle. The boy is and fumbles with riding, and spends extra time on getting the word riding, and maybe you supply it and you say, okay, riding a bicycle to the market. By the time some of these children get to the end of the sentence, they've already forgotten where they started from. And so, when you do ask a question, that child may not be able to answer the question accurately. Not because the child is dull, but because the child is unable to comprehend what he or she has read. There is also spoonerism. That happens when the children are talking and they've read something. So I'm going to the car park, or my mommy is waiting for me in the car park. Instead of saying car park, the child will say, my mommy is waiting for me in the park car. Or I want my paste tooth or my toothpaste. They just, jumble words and even phonics sounds. They jumble it together. So instead of saying pat, they say tap. Spelling difficulties. A child who has challenges with reading, it usually extends to spelling difficulties because they sometimes put one letter before the other. So they read words in the wrong order. They misspell many common words like there and there. They mix it up because they sound the same, so they misspell it. The pat, tap, book, look. Anybody wants to give me another example of words that, are there teachers in the room? Teachers that you, where and where, okay? Okay, yes, the boys were going, where are you going? So, what are you wearing? So they all sound alike, and sometimes they just, mix up all these words in writing as well. They write slowly and laboriously. Slowly. So they are usually the children that you've given them an assignment to do, or you've written so much on the board, and you're telling them to copy. And every other child has finished, and then you as a teacher, are you saying to that child that you can't go out for sports, just like the keynote speaker, Mrs. Tikolo, said, you're not going to go out for sports because you haven't finished writing. You're not going to go for drama club because you didn't finish copying what you have to copy. As educators, we need to understand that the child is not being lazy. The child actually just has a challenge, and we need to support and help the children. Right, confuses letters B and D. Okay, so other behaviors associated with dyslexia. Written work does not match verbal ability. Some children who are dyslexic, they can speak a lot much better than they can write. When it comes to narrating something, so they're the ones that might come into class and tell you what happened on the playground, and they'll be very accurate. But if you tell them to write something down, they can't write it. We shouldn't be that teacher that says that, that's all you know. When I tell you to write now, you will not write. Please do not condemn children like that. Instead, use their strengths. Develop those strengths that you should be observant enough to develop the strengths in these children. That golden seed that Mrs. Tikolo mentioned, you should be on the lookout. You should be intentional about searching for what that child has. Because most children who have a difficulty, most of them are also what you call twice exceptional children. So as much as there's a difficulty here, there is a strength that you can develop for the child. Reading, so they're slow readers, they have difficulty blending, poor concentration, as mentioned by Mr. Kikwumi. Reading the wrong order of words. Spelling also, I mentioned that earlier. They have issues with spelling. The same word will be spelled differently on one page, and another page, they spell it the right way. So they're not consistent. And it's not because they choose not to be consistent. It is because they do not have the ability, and you need to help them. organization and behavior, work avoidance tactics. So they try to avoid some things. Excessively tired, easily distracted, poor organization, difficulty following a set of instructions. Some of them are genuinely tired. Some are tired from trying really hard. They get easily tired because they need extra effort to read and to write. And aside from that, like Mr. Akiumi said, they also do have that pressure of thinking that, oh, I'm not good enough, poor self-esteem. How come everybody can do it in the class and I cannot do it? Please do not be that teacher that puts them on the spot. Be understanding. And when I say not put them on the spot, we're not saying that they should not be included. We do know about differentiation. Teachers in the house, differentiation, yes. Differentiation is not only for the neurotypical, it's also for the neurodivergent children as well. So please, let there be different ways of assessing their knowledge. Do not call a child that you obviously know has challenges with reading. That's not the child that you put out there to come and read a long passage. You can even be smart enough to let the child read, but give the child a very short line to read, that the child has even had the opportunity to practice. Or give the child the opportunity, whilst others are reading, to explain what has been read, so that the other children in the class see that, okay, despite the fact that this child, ABZ, is dyslexic, he also has this kind of strengths that they also can admire in him or her. So, I have dyslexia, which means that what I want you to do as an educator is to trust me. I want you to stop shouting at me. Teachers, educators, parents, we need to learn to stop shouting at these children. We need to learn to stop rolling our eyes. Because some of us do not shout, because we don't want it to be said that, oh, I shouted at that child. But we also need not to sigh, take a deep breath when it's the turn of that child to read and go, because children see. They see. Most children who have a learning challenge, right, they also have strengths. They're very intuitive. They see a lot more than the regular children see. There's a proverb, I don't know how it goes, but it goes like those who have beards, they might be bald, but they have full beards. So they get compensated with something. Twice exceptional children, gifted children. A lot of children who have learning difficulties are also gifted children. So please be mindful of how you treat them. And know that they do not forget. They will see you one day and remember that one teacher that was kind, that one teacher that was supportive, that one teacher that understood what was going on and did not condemn them. I need you to give me the time that I need. So if you need to give children extra time, please do. If that child has to start ahead, or you can print out. There's so many other ways that you can give a child notes without making that child sit down and copy for so long. Treat me equally. I am not different, but my learning style is different, but I'm still human. I'm still a child. My learning style may just be different from every other person in the class. And please focus on my strengths. Yes, focus on the child's strengths. So whatever that child can do well, please celebrate it. When that child improves in an area, no matter how tiny, acknowledge it. The more you acknowledge, the more the child is eager to do more. I have a creative and productive mind. Yes, creativity. Mrs. Tikolo spoke about that. I think Mr. Kilmi also did, spoke about creativity. A lot of children who are dyslexic, they are very creative. They're very creative, so they can draw, they can act, they can, they can hold your attention in so many other ways. As an educator, it's your responsibility to set up situations where they can flourish and show off what they have. It's your responsibility to say to your head of school, oh, I have a child in my class that is, he can't do this, he can't do that, but I need to boost his self-morale. So during the next assembly, I'd like him to play the keyboard. I'd like him to act. I'd like him to do a presentation on behalf of the class so that that child too has an opportunity to shine. And other children, you see, inclusion is not only for the children who have learning differences or challenges. It's also for the other children who think that they have it all together, to appreciate other children who do not have it all together, who do not appear like they have it all together in that particular area, in a specific area. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it's it's a two-way road. You're helping the neurotypical and you're also helping the neurodivergent. Because in the real world, there would always be neurodivergent people. I say people because those children grow. And so, somebody who is supposed to be on the queue has not stayed on the queue, is jumping the queue. Yes, it's not acceptable. And yes, we may say something. But even if we do complain, let's complain with a bit of understanding. Because we know. We know what other people may not know. And so we can just, let him be. And that's not to encourage indiscipline. So, some famous dyslexics: Albert Einstein, Pablo Picasso, Whoopi Goldberg. I believe that almost everybody in this room knows all these three people that I have put up. Yes or no? Yes, okay. So, when we show children and we let people see people like this, what's the message? The message is that because you do not write properly and read properly does not mean that's the end of it, that you cannot have a bright future ahead of you. And beyond that, as educators, if we put up these pictures in front of children in our schools now, they'll probably just roll their eyes and think, okay, so who are these people? So try and find people that are relevant to the children, relevant that they can relate to. And also, if you can, even within the school. So usually, diagnosis for children with dyslexia, that might be earlier. Maybe you start to notice when you're teaching them their phonemes, maybe age 4 and 5, 3, 4, 5, you start to notice it. As I don't know if I mentioned earlier, it's not your responsibility to diagnose. It's your responsibility to observe and then take that observation to the right people, to the specialists, the head of school, administrator, who then takes it on to the specialist who can do the analysis and diagnose. But when there are children like that and you start to notice it and it is established, if there are other children in the school who are living with the same learning difference or disability, let the younger ones see them if they're thriving. So you know what? You can do it. Don't worry. Just keep trying at it. Let's do this. Let's do that. You know this boy in year 5, you can invite the boy in year 5 to come and sit and be a buddy to a child in year 1. And that is very motivating. It's like a compass, especially if you choose carefully who you pair the child with. A good buddy that can be a good role model within the school and outside of the school. So, I'll go on to ADHD now. There's an overlap. There's usually an overlap between these challenges, comorbidity, like was mentioned before, when there's one challenge and there are other I try not to use the word difficulty. There are other challenges that appears. So ADHD, as we said earlier, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Diagnosis age is usually school age, about 7-ish, because most times when they're younger and they're exhibiting some of these traits, a lot of teachers or mothers just think, oh, it's just a small boy, it's just a little girl, oh, calm down, take it easy, and they just think that it's just one of those things. The child is at that age. But after some time, when it gets to the age where a child should sit still and do things, and you start to notice that this child does hardly pays attention. And it's not just today. I've observed over a period of time. This child is too hyper. This child is very impulsive, snatches things, gets up to walk around class. Excuse me, ma'am, I need to get my ruler. Excuse me, I want to go to the toilet. Just looking for excuses to get up and to fidget, or opening her locker to bring something out, different things. Then, as teachers, we observe. When you observe, you write down. I hope teachers know the importance of jotting down their observations and putting dates to it. Because when you're explaining to your head of school or the administrator, you can't just be saying that this is, he does this, or you need to bring out a book. On so and so date, this was what I noticed. Then you flip it again. On this day, this is what he did to that child. And it's not because you're reporting so that the child can be punished. It's evidence that this child needs help. Okay, so the subtypes of ADHD has been mentioned: the inattentive type, hyperactive and impulsive, and the combination of both. So I'll just go ahead and skip that bit because I believe that that has been mentioned already. Causes of ADHD could be hereditary, it could be brain injury, premature birth. I also have smoking and drinking during pregnancy. That could affect the child. And environmental factor. Okay, so the signs and the symptoms. Very quickly. Are my slides been? No? They are. Okay. So we have that carelessness. It goes without saying. If a child is very active, very hyper, rushing out of things, doing things impulsively, they tend to be careless. When they're rushing out, you can knock down a table, you can mistakenly hit somebody, and then that leads to trouble getting along with other people. Oh, you bumped into me. Oh, you whatever. You know, it leads to that. Difficulty sitting still. I have this child that is rolling over. Forgetfulness. If you're not organized, you tend to forget things. If a child is not organized, too hyper, too active, forgetfulness comes into it as well. Daydreaming. So that side of inattentive. The child might appear to be attentive and just sitting down there like this, but the mind has wandered far away. The mind has gone far away. Excessive talking. Just, you know, they're the children that you say, slow down, take it easy. So, just take it easy, calm down, and explain yourself properly. These are all symptoms of ADHD disorganization. And some renowned people, we have Michael Phelps, Michael Jordan, and will.i.am. These are very popular people, great swimmer, basketball legend, and this actor. So, despite the fact that they had ADHD, to be honest, I mean, a swimmer, kind of adds up if you look at it properly that, okay, maybe you can't calm down, but you can swim, you can use your muscles, you can, it's an activity. So look at those children. It's an activity that does not require being still. So look at the children in your class. Whether they have been diagnosed or not, look at their strengths. Look at every child's strength and see what you can get out of that golden, what did you say, seed? That golden seed. Every child has a golden seed. And if we focus only on the traditional ways of teaching, then we're going to miss it. We cannot teach a child the way the child can learn, not the way you just know how to teach. You have to adapt your teaching to accommodate the children that you have because they are diverse children. It will be very unfair of you as an educator to just have a one-way track and just teach all of them the same way. That is injustice to children and by extension to the world, because you don't want us to miss out on that fantastic, creative child, innovative child, because you did not give the right support. Classroom strategies. Okay. So, to have an inclusive classroom environment for children with ADHD and dyslexia involves a combination of classroom strategies and reasonable adjustments. There can't be inclusion without adjustments. You have to be willing to adjust. These approaches should be tailored to the individual needs of each child. As earlier mentioned, the fact that, okay, 5 children in your class are dyslexic, 4 of them have ADHD, does not mean that you can have the same approach to dealing with all of them. No, every child is unique, and their level of the learning disability is different. So we have the mild, the moderate, and the severe. So are you going to use the same one cap fits all, the same lesson plan for the severe and the moderate? No, you have to do the extra work of planning accordingly. Each child has their own individual education plan. IEP. IEP, yes, IEP. I can only see 2 hands up. IEP, okay, so we understand what we mean by IEPs. So it's appropriate that we must have individual education plans for the children. Am I running out of time? Okay, that's fine. I'll rush it. So clear instructions. Please give clear instructions when you're teaching. Don't jumble everything up. Don't jumble everything up because they might find it difficult to process it. Sitting arrangements is very important. That child that is very hyperactive, that you know must go out, you either have that child close by you, eye contact. You need to know how soon. This boy only sits down for 5 minutes, and you've been talking for 3 minutes. By the 4th minute, when you look at him, if what he's doing is just this, know that he's getting restless. Don't wait until he starts to do this. So pay attention in your class. Don't stand and talk in front of the class. Walk around your classroom. Own your classroom and pay attention to the students. If the child needs to be seated by the door so that once he starts to tap, you just tell him that, can you go to the next class and get me a pen from Mrs. A? You know what you're doing. What you're doing is you're giving that child an opportunity to leave the class before disrupting every other person. And the teacher that you have sent him to understands that, okay, this boy has come for this reading because he needs to get up and stretch. Visual aids. Please remember to use visual aids. A dyslexic child may not be able to read something that is too long. ADHD too may not be calm enough to understand everything that you've written there. But when you use visual aids, when you use like, Post-its and highlighters to highlight things for them so that they can know important things. So, like we said, they're usually forgetful, they're careless. So you write it, you shade it. Don't forget to bring your homework to school tomorrow. It's shaded right there in the communication book. So as they open it, they see it, and hopefully it helps them to remember. Do those extra things for the children. Short and frequent breaks, positive reinforcement. Like Mr. Kiyomi said, sometimes their self-esteem is so low because their friends laugh at them. Even their grandmas that are supposed to be understanding will be like, don't enter my kitchen before you pour something down. Don't do, just sit down there, just this, So when they do something good, please, 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 it is important that you reinforce them positively, you celebrate them, you understand. Time management tools help them to understand their time. You can use sun timers, so you're giving them, and please break tasks into chunks. Don't give them very long tasks to do. Put it in sections. Easier to finish this and then do this. You've done that, well done. Okay, now this is what we have to do, rather than give everything. Collaboration, like Mr. Kiyomi said, maintain open communications with parents and consider the inputs of specialists and counselors. As a teacher, you cannot do it alone. You're not supposed to do it alone. You're supposed to work with the parents. You're supposed to work with specialists. You're supposed to work with whoever needs to be involved, the multidisciplinary team. Work together for the best interests of the children. And at certain ages, even the children, you can work with them. So talk to the children. How best can I help you? We're in conversation. A child who was 7 steps backwards before may have moved forward 5 steps, and you may not have noticed, but the child knows, and the child can tell you that, are you aware that I can now this and I can now that? So please listen to the children. Dyslexia, structured reading programs, use evidence-based reading programs that focus on phonics and decoding. That will be helpful for children who have dyslexia. Audiobooks, text-to-speech. Audiobooks so they can listen. They can listen. We're not just reading, and they don't have to read all the time. They can listen to audiobooks. That's important. Visual support, use color coding, that I already mentioned. Alternative assessments. When you're assessing, please do not do your assessments with just reading and writing. That's not the only way that you can assess children. There's so many other ways. There can be group work. There can be presentations. There can be auditory presentations and all of that. Positive feedback and speech and language therapy. If that's required, please carry the specialists, the therapists along. I mentioned individual education plan already. Tailor instructions to the child's specific learning needs and provide extra time for assignments and tests. I already said that they're unique and they must be treated as individuals. Small group or one-on-one support. Some children do need that learning support teacher. One teacher may not be able to do it all. Some children need the learning support. Give flexible deadlines. So if every other person has to submit on Monday, you might decide that this child who has dyslexia should submit on Wednesday because the child needs extra time. Regular check-ins. Maintain regular communication with parents, specialists. I'm going to skip this because of time, because I believe that I've already said it. But basically what I was saying there is that as a parent, I don't know if there are parents in the room, please ensure that you get the support that your child needs. Even if the school thinks that, always coming in, always this woman, she's through this, she's through that. Please just do what you need to do. And as educators, be understanding. also remember that parents too are under pressure. They are some of them are being criticized. So for people who don't understand, they see a child who has ADHD jumping all over the place, and they're going, this boy, very badly behaved boy. And even the mother sitting beside that child is feeling like, oh God, everybody's looking at me. They think that I can't train my child. They think that he doesn't have home training. Please be understanding that they are also under a lot of pressure. Don't be too critical. Okay. So I'll leave this. I'm sure that this might be shared with you, so I'm going to skip all that. How can the government help? Early screening and diagnosis, teachers training, special education services we provided, mental health support, the government can help with that, community support centers, accessible health care centers, and inclusive education, parents and community education, enlighten parents and the community. Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Oyikan. You would agree with me, it's clear that the time allotted for her presentation is definitely not sufficient. But she has given us very practical tips on how we can handle these special children. She has said we shouldn't shout on them, we shouldn't pick on them, we should be mindful of them, give extra time where required, focus on their strengths. That has been a word that's been resonating since the beginning of this program. We should celebrate and acknowledge their wins. And we should be intentional about taking care of these golden seeds because they're twice exceptional. Please, let's not forget that. Thank you so much. Please, let's put our hands together again for her. Thank you very much, ma'am.